leaders who are ready to lead breakthroughs and innovations. Through its industrial and academic partnerships, UPLB propagates its gains to advance inclusive development in various sectors. An educational institution that upholds honor, excellence, and public service. And public service. And public service. And public service.
112 years ago, the UP Board of Regents had a vision to develop their true firstborn college that will spearhead national development through agriculture.
And public service. And public service.
Edwin B. 112 years ago, the UP Board of Regents had embarked on the journey to develop their true firstborn college for agriculture, national development,
and public service. And public service. And public service.
112 years ago, the UP Board of Regents had a vision. A 112 years ago, the UP Board of Regents had a vision to develop their true firstborn college that will spearhead national development through agriculture. At the foot of Mount Makiling, Edwin B. 112 years ago, 7 faculty, the UP Board of Regents had a vision embarked on the journey to develop their true firstborn college that will agriculture national development through agriculture. Through its 112 years of existence, at the college has produced over 1,000 technologies together a variety of plants and animals. 12 students have embarked on the journey to develop their true first 30 outstanding agriculture and more than 18,000 graduates through its 112 years of existence. At the college has produced over 1,000 people now get a variety of plants and animals and as we continue for 30 outstanding agriculture with instruction, research, and with 112 years of existence. At the college has produced over 1,000 people now get a variety of 10 years after establishment at the college has been continuous for 30 outstanding agriculture with instruction, research, and resistance of years of existence. At the college has produced over 1,000
Okay, a very pleasant morning to everyone. Welcome to the anniversary webinar of the National Crop Protection Center. This is part of the week-long celebration of the 49th year of NCPC with the theme Innovating the Future of Sustainable Crop Protection. I am Charlotte Gusojas, University Extension Specialist from NCPC, and I will be your host for this morning. So together, we will be learning about two interesting crop protection tools through our resource speakers. We are here on Zoom, but we are also live on Facebook and YouTube. So if you have friends or colleagues who might be interested to join this webinar, please feel free to send them the Zoom link or refer them to the NCPC social media accounts. Okay, so shout out to our participants from Davao Oriental State University, from Negros Occidental, and from the National Teachers College. So good morning, everyone. Okay, so before we begin, here are a few reminders. First, please keep your microphones on mute to minimize disruptions during the webinar. Second, if you have any questions or clarifications, please submit them via the Zoom Q&A chat tab or chat or through the Facebook or YouTube comment sections. So later, we will be having an open forum where our resource speakers will address your questions. And lastly, please make sure to answer the evaluation form to receive your e-certificates. The link to the evaluation form will be provided at the end of the webinar. So make sure to stay until then. Okay, so at this point, to formally open our program, I would like to invite Ms. April N. Alvior, NCPC Officer in Charge, to give the opening remarks. April?
Thank you, Char. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the National Crop Protection Center, I warmly welcome all of you to this webinar in celebration of NCPC's 49th founding anniversary with the theme Innovating the Future of Sustainable Crop Protection. For nearly 5 decades, the center has remained steadfast in its mandate to safeguard the nation's agricultural productivity and food security through science-based, environmentally sound, and economically viable crop protection strategies. As we approach our golden year, we not only reflect on our history of contribution to Philippine agriculture, but also look ahead, recognizing the vital role of innovation in addressing today's increasingly complex and interconnected challenges like emerging diseases, pest resistance, climate change, and the imperative to produce more with fewer resources. Today's webinar exemplifies this commitment to innovation and collaboration. We are privileged to feature two outstanding presentations that highlight the integration of advanced tools and interdisciplinary approaches in crop protection. First, we will hear from Ms. Sarah Jane B. Manaday, University Researcher under the Plant Biosecurity Division at NCPC, who will present innovative crop protection through its SPIDTECH class, an enhanced Android application for smarter identification, management, and monitoring of agricultural pests and diseases in the Philippines. As we strive to modernize field-level intervention, tools like its SPIDTECH class bridge the gap between data science and practical extension work. Our second speaker, Dr. Robert C. Kemerait Jr., professor at the University of Georgia, USA, will share an international perspective in his talk, Peanut RX, a cross-disciplinary collaborative disease management tools for sustainable production of manure, that showcases how science, extension, and farming communities can co-create adaptive, location-specific solutions to tackle complex plant disease issues. Thank you, Ms. Sarah and Dr. Bob, for accepting our invitation to share your knowledge and expertise. This webinar reflects Center's unwavering dedication to empowering farmers and researchers to work hand in hand in shaping a better future for agriculture. Through science and technology, we can rise above today's challenges and pave the way for a more sustainable farming system for generations to come. Let us take this opportunity to learn, share, and connect as we explore practical innovation and collaborative strategies in crop protection. Thank you for joining us today, and I encourage everyone to stay engaged and participate actively in our discussion. Again, thank you very much and mabuhay ang NCPC. Back to you, Char.
Thank you very much, Miss April, for that very inspiring opening remarks. Now, may I request everyone to please turn on their video so we can have a quick photo op. Okay, so give us your biggest smiles.
Hindi naman
Okay,
ma-open ang
two.
video ko.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, another one. Okay. 1, 2, 3, smile. And last one. Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, so thank you very much. We will now proceed to our first topic for today. Allow me to introduce our speaker. She is a graduate of the BS Agriculture program of UPLB and is pursuing her master's degree in plant pathology in the same university. A licensed agriculturist, she is currently a university researcher at the National Crop Protection Center. She specializes in plant pathology with subspecialization in mycology, plant disease epidemiology, remote sensing, plant disease modeling, and plant physiology. To talk about innovative crop protection through SPIDTECH Plus, let us welcome Ms. Sarah Jane B. Manaday. Ms. Sarah?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Let me just share with you my presentation. Just fix this because I have 3 screens in front of me. Sharing the right presentation. Mhm. Okay, that's it. Thank you, Ms. Char, for that introduction. So good morning, everyone. I am Sarah Jean Manaday from the National Crop Protection Center, and this morning I will be sharing with you one of our research studies here in NCPC, which is the SPIDTECH class, as one of the tools for innovative crop protection. So to start, okay. Okay, so it's not new to us that crop production today faces a lot of challenges that threaten food security and livelihoods of our farmers. From the rising pests and disease pressures to the impacts of climate change, our farmers constantly deal with complex and shifting environment. Limited access to technologies, high input costs, and management difficulties make it even harder to maintain healthy crops and stable yields. Now, why am I presenting these obvious scenarios? Because only by understanding these issues that we are able to make the first step toward developing smarter and sustainable solutions. Smart agriculture, or sometimes referred as digital agriculture, is the use of digital tools to address pressing issues in agriculture to enhance crop productivity and crop sustainability. Some of these technologies include the use of artificial intelligence, popular AI, machine learning, if you have heard, and deep learning. It also includes the use of satellites, drones, and sensors for remote sensing, Internet of Things, automation and robotics, and also the use of ICT devices like smartphones and computers. Now, the very goal of smart agriculture is not necessarily to eradicate traditional or conventional method of farming, because I hear a lot of comments about that. Smart agriculture uses modern technologies to enhance and modernize conventional practices with the goal of providing fast solutions, encouraging data-driven and real-time decision-making, and the use of resources, efficient use of resources and data collection, and to reduce human error, and to provide early warning and early detection of insect pests and diseases, and to promote cost-effective farming management. Among the digital tools that are used in smart agriculture, the use of ICT devices, especially the smartphones, offers the highest potential in helping Filipino farmers, especially small-scale farmers, when it comes to pest problems. Combined with AI and GPS technology, we can develop a tool that will help our farmers quickly identify the insect pests and diseases, and also remotely monitor. Now, there are two reasons why it's good to leverage on smartphones. First, among the digital tools that I have mentioned a while ago, smartphones or mobile phones is relatively much cheaper compared to the other digital tools. This is because of the increasing availability of smartphones in the market, hence making this technology more accessible to various stakeholders, including the households, small-scale farmers. Secondly, it is the most commonly used ICT device here in the Philippines. In a survey conducted by the Department of Information and Communications Technology in collaboration with the Philippine Statistics Authority about women and ICT devices, ICT Development Index, wherein they had a sample size of 44,000 households nationwide, they found out that 93% of Filipino households have ICT devices, and almost 85% of those households have smartphones. In other words, if you want to reach majority of Filipino households, you need to use smartphones to share information, teach better farming methods, and give easy access to help in agricultural services. So to cope up with a rapidly advancing modern agriculture, our group from NCPC, in collaboration with other units in UPLB, developed this SPIDTECH mobile app. Just to give you a brief background, this started as one of our projects under the STRIPE program, which is the IPDAS, Insect Pest and Disease Advisory System, which is funded by the OSTP card. And then later on, we further enhanced and developed under the AGES program, funded by the National Economic and Development Authority, which is now the SPIDTECH Plus. So what is SPIDTECH Plus? It is an Android application that uses image detection technology or YOLO, for digital identification, remote monitoring, and management of major diseases and insect pests of 20 crops in the Philippines. In other words, it is a tool that brings innovation to crop protection using smart technology to detect and identify insect pests and diseases, to identify presence and hotspot areas, and provide knowledge on integrated pest management, and ultimately help farmers protect their crops for sustainable crop production and higher income. So these are the crops that are included in SPIDTECH. These are rice, corn, banana, coconut, tomato, sugarcane, soybean, cacao, coffee, onion, cassava, cabbage, ampalaya, eggplant, papaya, abaca, citrus, mango, and rubber and pineapple. So initially, the first 10 are actually the first part of the SPIDTECH previous version, earlier version, but the SPIDTECH Plus included this additional 10 crops, the last 10 crops. So what can we see in SPIDTECH Plus? So there are actually three main features of the SPIDTECH Plus. So these are the disease and insect pest libraries. This showcase information about the biological, epidemiological, and management strategies of diseases and insect pests in the Philippines. The second feature is the digital identification. This feature allows users to identify crop diseases and insect pests using mobile captured images of infected plants, or just by answering a few simple questions. The third feature is the GPS-based remote monitoring, which provide information on the presence of certain diseases and insect pests in various locations in the Philippines. So as of now, this mobile app is available in 4 languages. The main is the English language, and then we added 3 local languages in the Philippines, which is the Tagalog, Ilocano, and Cebuano, because these are the major languages here in the Philippines. So in addition from these 3 main features, we also added a new feature. So we created a companion app, which we call the Speed Hive mobile app, which is responsible for the image collection and annotation. So what does this feature do? So this allows users with technical crop protection knowledge to contribute and annotate annotated images of insect pests and diseases from all places in the Philippines. Okay, so for the first feature of SPIDTECH Plus, disease and insect pest libraries, here are the information that you can see. So as of now, we have 165 disease profiles and 142 insect pest profiles. So each profile has this information for the disease. It has a disease name, the causal agent, the scientific and common name, if available, signs and symptoms, crop stage affected, description of disease, description of the pathogen, host range, alternate host, and the different management strategies, which include IPM strategies like cultural, biological, and chemical strategies. For the insect pest profiles, these are the information that you can obtain. The common insect name, the taxonomic order, the taxonomic family, the scientific name, description of insect pests, stages of development, host range, damage characteristics, and also the different IPM strategies for insect pests. So in terms of information, we have updated also the previous version of SPIDTECH. So the SPIDTECH Plus has more updated information, including the emerging diseases and the emerging insect pests and diseases here in the Philippines. These are just some of the screenshots of the insect pests and disease libraries of SPIDTECH Plus. As you can see in the image, you just have to click the SPIDTECH in the home page of the SPIDTECH Plus. Just click the insect pest and disease libraries, and it will direct you to these pages. You just have to choose which crop you are interested, and under that crop, there are a list of major and common diseases and insect pests in the Philippines. Okay, so the second feature of SPIDTECH Plus is a digital identification. And under this feature, there are three different ways to identify the insect pests and diseases. So first one is by answering a simple question, simple questions. So simple lang to actually, so just 3 questions, and then you'll have a series of results. So you just have to click the first icon, identify without image, and then it will ask you which crop you are trying to include, which you just have to click which crop you're interested in, and then it will ask you, are you interested in insect pests or diseases? You just have to click either insect or disease, and then which part of the plant did you see the disease or the insect? So if you check, for instance, for a banana, if you check the leaves, it will direct you to a page of a list of diseases of leaf diseases of banana, and then if you click each dose, it will lead you to the library also. Now, the second and third way to identify is through the use of a camera or using previously captured images. So for this one, you can just click the icon Identify with Camera, and then use your camera to capture the real-time capture of the infected plant. And it will ask you, it will automatically identify which part of the image has disease or has insect pest, and it will provide you results. Say, for instance, fall armyworm, it will create boxes that will show you which part of the image has fall armyworm. Or for instance, for corn, if you capture a photo of infected leaves, it will provide you boxes of results where you can see which part of the image has disease for, say, northern corn leaf blight, or say southern corn leaf blight. And then the third identification method, which is the identify from gallery. This one, if you have previously taken images of infected plants and just save it in your gallery, so you can identify again. You can just use the app anytime you want. Okay, the third feature is the use of GPS-based monitoring. So this portion is not necessarily directly using the SPIDTECH, but we have created another companion app, which we call the SpeedHive Web. And under this web information system, this is where the collected images are deposited. So this serves as a repository of all the submitted images. And based on those submitted images, this create a map of insect pests and diseases located in different areas in the Philippines. So this is actually up to barangay level. If you zoom in this map, you can see the specific areas where these images of insect pests and diseases were collected. Okay, so under the same web information system, which is a SpeedHive Web, it also serves as a tool for annotation of images. So for us to make sure that the accuracy of identification of the SPIDTECH Plus is high and the precision is high, we make sure that the annotations are correct. So crop protection experts use this platform to annotate, when we say annotate, label images, so that the SPIDTECH, once the end user uses it, it automatically detects which part of the image is has a disease or has an insect pest. Now, the difference of SPIDTECH Plus from the previous version is that the previous version, you have to manually annotate. Once you take an image of infected plant, you have to manually annotate the image for the SPIDTECH to work on, or for the SPIDTECH to identify the insect pest or disease. But this version, it automates the SPIDTECH Plus automates the detection of insect pests and diseases. So behind all those identification and at the end user are the crop protection experts doing the annotations. So this SpeedHive web is actually connected also to the SpeedHive mobile app. So this goes together. Here are some of the data that we have already collected and stored in SpeedHive web. So on the left image, you can see the number of, it provides visuals of the number of images collected per crop. So this one, it's not yet sorted, so it's combined insect pests and diseases. As of now, we have a collection of at least 30,000 images collected across the country. And if you click on each crop, you will see on the right image, you can see there which insect pests and diseases are already included. So say, for instance, if you click the corn, it will provide you the collections of insect pests and diseases and their corresponding number. Okay, so smart agriculture offers, as I had mentioned a while ago, offers a modern approach to improving crop protection. And I believe innovative crop protection can be captured by the word care. So continuing, accelerating, reinvigorating, and merging. So in connection to our theme, when you say continuing, this means that innovative crop protection should be ongoing or evolving. There should be an ongoing improvement or transformation of methods used to protect crops from the insect pests and diseases. And SpeedTech Plus is continuously improving by integrating new technologies to meet the growing needs of our farmers in protecting the crops. Second one is accelerating. When you say accelerating, it uses fast solutions to protect the crops to meet the needs of our changing world. And SpeedTech Plus is accelerating crop protection by giving farmers instant insights into pests and disease risks using the maps. Reinvigorating provides fresh and new knowledge to increase interest in sustainable farming. And SPIDTECH Plus is reinvigorating because it provides new and updated knowledge on new diseases, emerging insect pests and diseases, and the different IPM strategies. Emerging, it uses new technologies or new methods to protect crops and positively transform crop production. And SPIDTECH Plus is emerging by integrating modern technologies such as AI to protect crops. So that's actually my presentation is actually very short. And this I would like to introduce to our team. This is the research team that worked on this project. We are composed of plant pathologists, entomologists, computer scientists, technicians, research associate, and admin staff. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank also our regional collaborators who warmly welcomed us, the Department of Agriculture Regional Crop Protection Centers, specifically RCPC 1, 2, 3, 4A, 4B, 5, 6, 10, 11, and PAR. Maraming salamat po, especially sa mga center chiefs, and we hope to have more collaborations po in the future. I think that's it. That's the end of my presentation. As I have said, it's brief, and if you have questions, you are you are very welcome to ask.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sarah, for that very interesting talk on SPIDTECH Plus. So this can actually really help our stakeholders to identify crop diseases and insect pests using their mobile phones. So indeed, this is an innovative app that shows care for the farmers and the agricultural sector. Okay, so we now proceed to our second speaker. He is a professor of plant pathology and an extension specialist at the University of Georgia, USA. He earned his PhD in plant pathology from the University of Florida. He specializes in the management of diseases and plant parasitic nematodes affecting key crops such as peanuts, cotton, soybeans, and corn. To discuss Peanut RX, a cross-disciplinary collaborative disease management tool for sustainable production of mani, here is Dr. Robert C. Kemerait Jr. Sir?
Magandang umaga, naimbaga bigat, maayong buntag. Good morning, and I am very happy to be here with you. And I do want to give a shout out to here in Tifton, where it is now 12 hours earlier than you. But I know that Judo Butalid from Quezon City and Ome Silva from Los Baños, and also Lakshmi Pandi, most likely from Nepal, are also listening. So it is indeed a pleasure to be with you. I very much enjoyed the previous presentation. I enjoyed the innovation. I enjoyed the passion she put into it. As an American and as an American plant pathologist, there was one disease. I may not have caught it quickly enough, but you don't have to answer. But in your minds, think what disease on that corn slide do you think that most Americans would be looking for? The most famous disease that comes out of the Philippines as far as corn production around the world is obviously what? Philippine downy mildew. And so every time I'm in Los Baños, I try to see that disease simply because I feel I'm meeting someone famous. So why should Americans? I am an American in the United States today, right? From Tifton, Georgia, the University of Georgia Tifton campus. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about sustainable production and why should American farmers care about sustainable disease control. As a plant pathologist, disease management is critical for sustainable production. Best programs may not always give absolute control when we're talking about sustainable control, but best management practice integrate cultural practices, resistance, and optimal use of fungicides. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So if we are going to talk about sustainable agriculture, we'll talk about if we want to reduce inputs. If we want to reduce inputs, we have to manage risk. We have to optimize application strategies. We have to find ways to reduce cost and risk, perhaps by using resistance management and other factors as that. So I appreciated greatly the theme of this seminar and the sustainability aspect. And so what is sustainability? You know, it can be talked about in a lot of ways. The most basic way to discuss sustainability is the capacity to endure, the capacity to survive. I would say that the people of the Philippines have shown over and over and over again their capacity to survive, capacity to endure. But there's three pillars when we talk about sustainability in my world, in my wheelhouse, as we say in the United States. It requires a reconciliation. It requires that we look at three factors. There has to be environmental sustainability. There has to be social equity sustainability, and there has to be economic demands. Because if it's not sustainable in an environmental sense, is it really sustainable? If it's not sustainable on a social basis, is it really sustainable? And if in farming production, if it's not economically sustainable, is it really sustainable? So when we talk about sustainability, environmental, social equity, and economic demands are all parts of that. Now, in the United States, or sometimes when I talk to people here, they get confused. They equate sustainable agriculture with organic agriculture. And that may or may not be true. It may or may not be exactly what happens. So organic farming requires techniques such as crop rotation and green manure and compost and biological pest control. And of course, organic production excludes the use of synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, growth regulators, genetically modified organisms. Okay? So is organic production sustainable? And perhaps it is. Perhaps it is sustainable and it may work. But when we look where I've been in the world, okay, some of the places I've been in the world in these pictures is in Haiti and in Guyana. Okay, and so they have traditional organic agricultural systems. They have no chemical inputs. They are sustainable in the sense that over hundreds of thousands of years, at least in Guyana, the native indigenous peoples there have been able to use slash and burn agriculture, and they've been able to sustain that as they move from place to place. The people in Haiti for hundreds of years have used a very organic, low input production to farm. The question is, given our three pillars of social equity, of environmental concerns, and also economic demands, is something like this, something we look back on, is traditional organic agriculture sustainable in the modern world? And I would say that may not be so. As I said below, traditional agricultural systems have met the test of sustainable, but they have not been able to respond to modern rates of growth and demand for agricultural commodities. They have been sustainable, but with an increasing population, increasing demand for commodities, what was once considered sustainable over hundreds of years may not be what we're talking about now. Okay? And so, my title slide. Not most people start with the title slide. I like to jump right into what we're going to talk about. But my title is SPIDTECH, a cross-disciplinary collaborative disease management tool for sustainable production of money. What I like so much about our previous talk, our previous speaker did an excellent job, is showing innovative ways. Use of smartphones, use of computer programming, use of so many new technologies that allow us to move greater towards or move more quickly towards sustainable agriculture. But in my world, as an extension specialist, I sometimes feel people forget that there are aspects of communication, of building trust, of establishing relationships that can't be neglected as we move forward with technology. Okay? And that's why I call this cross-disciplinary. And the success of what I talk about SPIDTECH, it requires collaboration across entomology, agronomy, economics, plant pathology, and ag engineering. It's collaborative because we work with different cooperative work as well. And it's a management tool for sustainable production of money or peanuts where I am. Sustainable in the sense that we use most of the tools we can use to try and be less reliant upon pesticides, especially fungicides. We recognize that from those three pillars of sustainable, right? It's got to be economically sustainable, and not only environmental and social sustainable, it has to be economic. And so sustainable agriculture, at least where I am, may never be organic for these peanut farmers. But the goal will be to find ways that we can reduce inputs, especially chemical inputs where we can. And so with that, I'm grateful to be invited to speak with you, and let's get started, all right? So, sustainable agriculture. And every governmental agent, U.S. code is no exception to that, has definitions. So integrated system of plant and animal production practices having a site-specific application that will over long term satisfy human food and fiber needs, right? So as we talk about sustainable agriculture, if it doesn't sustain what we need in terms of food and fiber, it's not sustainable. It has to enhance environmental quality and natural resource base upon which agriculture depends. If our production systems are continually degrading in the environment, is it really sustainable? Make the most efficient use. Now look at this, okay? It doesn't say don't use non-renewable resources and non-farm resources. It says make the most efficient use and, where appropriate, integrate natural biological cycles and controls. I think that's very, very important. The goal of sustainable agriculture should be to maximize the use of things like to minimize non-renewable resources and try to integrate natural biological controls. But it may not always be possible at once. Sustain economic viability of farming operations. If by our practices to try and remain sustainable, the farmers cannot continue to stay on the land, they cannot continue to farm, that kind of defeats the purpose. And so we want to enhance the quality of life for the farmers. So if we want to embrace these concepts, if we want to embrace the concepts of sustainability in agriculture, our peanut farmers, they would look for best management practices. Best management practices in order to protect their crop from pests and diseases and from weeds. Best management practices would optimize the use of pesticides, and in my case, fungicides and nematicides. So if we're going to be sustainable, we need to adopt best management practices. And what are some of those? Timeliness, calibration, attention to rates, correct disposal of products, complete attention to the label, use of innovation application strategies. We want to follow the guidelines and risk to fungicide resistance. When I'm in developing countries around the world, whether it's in Haiti or Guyana or Cambodia or wherever it is, and I see farmers out walking into and spraying corn with their pesticides, I have to wonder, or they're spraying other crops, how closely are they following the label? Do they even know what the label is? Do they know how to calibrate? And maybe they do. But if we don't, it's a quick way to reduce efficacy of what we have. So what are the benefits of reduced inputs? And again, when I get to Peanut RX, you can see the logo right there. Peanut RX, one of the goals is to use integrative pest management to find ways that we're less reliant upon chemicals. Hopefully this will decrease environmental risk, it'll reduce cost, and it'll reduce risk of fungicide resistance. So this is my wheelhouse. This is my world. I'm a plant pathologist, okay? And if you see at the top, these are some of the most common diseases we face in the United States, in Georgia where I am. Tomato spotted wilt virus at the top left. Top right is cylindrocaladium black rot. Bottom right is southern blight. And on the left-hand side, you can see southern rust, and you see peanut rust, and also late leaf spot and early leaf spot. Now that picture on the far bottom left, that was taken in Los Baños. That was taken approximately 20 years ago by Emma Eusebio. If any of y'all know Emma Eusebio, you can know that I tell her that I still use her picture in my slide presentations, because it does what? It simply shows the diseases you're fighting here for peanut farmers are exactly the same that we find in the United States. And measures that you have and measures that we have hopefully will be ways to minimize that damage. Okay? So what are my objectives? I want to introduce you to important diseases of peanuts, or mani. Demonstrate a system that farmers in the United States choose to use management options, and that would be Peanut RX. And again, what I want to show you with Peanut RX is, yes, we have innovative technology in it, but more importantly, or as at least equally important in that system, is the communication between different land-grant universities. It's the innovation, it's the collaboration, and it is the trust that's built up with the farmers that allows us to be successful with this. Because as we move forward with technology, building relationships between ourselves as professionals and building relationships with our farmers and with the industry is absolutely at the heart, I believe, of sustainable agriculture. Talk about how Peanut RX is a team effort, how we improve it, and demonstrating how we also can have that as towards sustainable agriculture. Okay. When I talk about mani, when I talk about peanut production, you could see across the world, the belt across the world, the tropical and semi-tropical areas, where we can see that peanut production thrives. Now, unfortunately for this map, the Philippines is just off the right-hand side of the map, but the Philippines is a country where mani can be grown and grown well. This is in China, or you can see this, it's not in Chinese, part of it was, but you can see this, that 42% of the mani that's grown in the world is grown in China. And the next 18% is grown in India. So over 60% of the peanuts in the world are grown outside, or in two nations, I should say, with the United States and with Nigeria and Indonesia coming in quickly behind that. If you have already scanned this map, like I assume you would have, you are looking for the Philippines on this map. And when you look at Southeast Asia, you see Indonesia is a large producer. You see Vietnam's a fairly large producer. You'll even find that Thailand is on there, and probably Myanmar should be on there. If we go to another map, and again, you look at this, again, China and India are the largest producers. United States, Nigeria, Burma, or Myanmar is there. Again, Vietnam, Indonesia there. But the Philippines would be in others. The Philippines would be in others. And so if I'm speaking to you today as my friends and colleagues in the Philippines, Am I only speaking about a crop which is important in countries outside of the Philippines? And I argue, and I will argue, that's not true. Though you don't make the largest percentage of countries that have, or have the countries that have the largest production, money is very important in the Philippines, as we will see. The diseases that we have here, important diseases, southern blight caused by Agrothelium ralphsii, the left-hand side, late leaf spot in the center, and tomato spotted wilt virus. Of those diseases, at least two of them are major importance. I was in the Philippines in April. I was in Santo Domingo, I was in Ilocos Sur and Ilocos Norte, and I can tell you that the two diseases on the left-hand side, the southern blight and the late leaf spot coupled with rust, were devastating diseases in some of those fields. Why were they devastating? One, because the climate the weather is conducive. You have the pathogens, you have the crop, and also those growers were reluctant to use and did not use fungicides. Yes, they were organic production by and large, but was that sustainable in terms of what their yields were? Southern blight, again, this is caused by Agrothelium ralphsii, one of the most important devastating diseases. All of those diseases I mentioned are important diseases around the world as well. And you can see in the picture, this was taken somewhere in the locals in northern Luzon. And you can see in that picture, we had unidentified virus. To this day, I still don't know what it was. On the right-hand side, you can see rust and late leaf spot. On the bottom, what you can see, and that is in Luzon as well, northern Luzon, you can see the harvest of peanuts, actually the shelling of peanuts. And so as we talk about sustainable production may look a little bit different in the United States, where we have an emphasis on machinery, on equipment, where 2 or 3 men and women can farm thousands of hectares. Whereas in the Philippines, sustainable development can't forget the many people who are employed by agriculture in terms of field work, or maybe by harvest or by processing. 2 of the diseases we have here, and I know that Ome Silva is listening if she hadn't fallen asleep yet, and these are diseases that she works with every year. You can see the peanut rust, you can see the late leaf spot. And what's important to me is when we look at this, the picture in the upper left-hand corner was taken in Thailand. The upper right-hand corner was Argentina. The lower left-hand corner was Guyana, South America. The Philippines on the lower right, and in the center is the United States of America. So everything that I talk about now, everything I talk about ways that peanut farmers in the United States are trying to be more sustainable, the tools they're trying to use, they have application in one way or another in terms of peanut production in the Philippines. An example here is tomato spotted wilt virus. And you can see a father and son. The father was 90 years old. His son was probably in his early 60s. Okay, and they're farming. And they have that look on their face because diseases like tomato spotted wilt virus continue to take yield for them year after year. And the question is, there is no resistance, complete resistance to this disease. If you look at this chart, as recently as 1997, this disease threatened our industry. Tomato spotted wilt virus, a virus vectored by or spread by thrips. And as recently as 1997, 13% of our crop was lost. But over time, you could see that disease has become less important, then will peak again, then become less important. What are some of those peaks and valleys associated with? And what we see is, in 1996, the Spotted Wilt Index, the predecessor of Peanut RX, came out, and we see that we started to see reduction. We started to have more resistant varieties released. We see that we have Peanut RX released. And so I will not take credit, my colleagues would not take credit that risk indices are the only reason. Certainly resistant varieties have been a very, very big contributor. But I will say that as growers recognize how to manage by integrated pest management, how to integrate and manage those diseases, the extension effort pays off in terms of reduced losses. Peanut RX, as I said, is an integrated tool, an integrated pest management tool to try and take all of the research that's been done and to recognize categories or variables that can be managed to affect and reduce the amount of disease in the grower's field. We recognize that crop rotation affects the amount of disease, especially soil-borne diseases and fungal diseases. Obviously, we recognize that variety, more resistant or less resistant. We understand that planting date. The earlier you plant or the later you plant. We understand the seeding rate, your tillage practices, your irrigation, your field history, your insecticide. All of these factors we recognize play a role. Research shows that. What Peanut RX has done in terms of innovation is to put all of those factors into a single risk index and also weight those variables by the importance. For instance, the variety you plant has a greater impact on risk to white mold, to spotted wilt, and to leaf spot than, say, your irrigation history or field history. And so these categories are weighted in terms of the amount of points that they have, and then they can be added together to find out what the overall risk is. When we talk about the single most important, probably the single most important factor in Peanut RX is resistance. We understand that our resistance in peanut is not perfect. We have increasingly resistance, but we don't have immune varieties. Peanut RX allows us to try and explore this, trying to give weight to varieties that have better resistance. We do this because it helps the growers understand. A grower who may have always planted one variety may be hesitant to plant a second variety. But if we can show him or her quantitatively how the factors improve by planting a more resistant variety, it improves the opportunity for them to do that. Resistance allows flexibility in fungicide programs. As we talked about in sustainable agriculture, we're looking for ways to minimize impact of agriculture on the environment. Fungicides may be a critical part of production of peanuts in the United States. They are. But as we improve resistance, it allows us flexibility on what fungicide programs we use. With improved resistance, we have less reliance on fungicides. Okay? And resistance is not the only factor. However, growers look at yield potential. They look at yield potential, not only resistance, and they're doing what they do. An example of what Peanut RX would do, and this was just happened to be a trial. We did not expect this to happen. It was a variety trial in 2015. It's a worst case scenario for growers. And again, we did not expect this to happen. It was short rotations. It was peanut rotated with soybeans, peanuts rotated with soybeans. And we had a fairly inexpensive, weaker fungicide program. But as you look across, you can see in the middle, Georgia 12Y, a new variety at the time, came out in 2012. And despite the pressure that was out there, you can see how it compares to our standard Georgia 06G. You can see the devastation, the tough runner, Georgia 13M. The difference between a 12Y and a tough runner 511 in that field was probably several thousand pounds or several thousand kilograms per hectare. All of that is in the variety that's planted. Again, even with the use of minimal fungicides, varieties can have increased resistance. And it's not just foliar diseases like leaf spot. If you look at the left-hand side, again, that's that Georgia 12Y that looks so good in the foliar diseases. If you look at the right-hand side, that's the standard, the Georgia 06G. And you can see the difference in yield, the difference in disease severity when we have that disease, southern blight, or white mold, we call it. Okay? Now, the question is this. When I was a graduate student, I would look at that and I would say, of course, growers should plant Georgia 12Y. Look at how much better it is. And I imagine there would be peanut farmers in the Philippines who would say, how can I get some Georgia 12Y? All right? It makes a lot of sense. But what if the growers prefer the 6G? Or more importantly, if I tell you that it takes 3 to 4 weeks longer to grow the 12Y than it does the 6G, and that could push growers, longer season varieties, could push growers in the Philippines into periods of time which is less conducive. Okay? So what you see here is when you look at the 06 and the 12Y, you can see the points for white mold equal in spotted wilt. With white mold is 20 and 10, you can see the difference. The values make a difference in terms of allowing the growers to see that the 06G has less resistance against 12Y, against 07W. Okay? Just an example, and this is from the thesis of Clarence Codod. He was a Filipino student from Medellin. He's now a PhD postdoctoral research associate in California. He came from Benguet State University, an excellent student, and he looked at this, working with this grower, and what he did was he ran the whole Peanut RX, and he found that the planting date, the tillage, what they used in furrow, the variety they planted, at the end of the season, this grower had 49% spotted wilt. It was devastating, but Peanut RX allowed the grower to come back the next year and try and make better management decisions, both in planting date and the variety he used. PeanutRx is a product, is a risk index based upon collaborative efforts that helps growers to make decisions on how best to minimize disease severity. Now, again, what I want to reiterate is as we move forward with sustainable agriculture, as we move forward with drone imagery, as we move forward with smartphones, as we move forward with all the opportunity that technology provides, sustainable agriculture and especially research demands that we work collaboratively. The fact that you invite me today says that we want to work collaboratively. PeanutRx is not just the University of Georgia, it's 6 other institutions. Since this slide was made, North Carolina State University has joined us. It is a collaborative effort across the southern United States to try and figure out best solutions. It's people working together. And in this picture, you can see how that was. Now, this was in 2016. If you were to jump ahead, if you look at 2016, we had one young man at the far right from Asia, from India, and we had in the middle, we had one young lady in the picture. If you were to jump ahead today, the dynamics have shifted. As we talk about collaboration, the number of women who are on the PeanutRx team, the number of people who are from outside the United States on the PeanutRx team continues to grow and diversify. It's been very, very rewarding. We have our own way of disseminating this information. If you develop a risk index, an integrated pest management tool that allows growers to find better ways by using best management practices, looking at timing of planting, the varieties that plant, the tillage, all of those factors, and it works really, really well, but nobody knows about it or nobody uses it. This is where I follow in the footsteps of our previous speaker. What can we do with online information? And ours is found at www.peanutrx.org. And what you can see is we have automated systems where growers can go in and they can change. They can look at what their variety is. They can look at what their plant population. They can look at their tillage. They can look at their planting date, the crop rotation, and they can find out what their risk is. And if you look at the bottom of this page, this is some of the handout. There's some of this information that comes. Too small for you to read. But if you were a grower, you would look at red as putting you in high risk. Yellow is putting you in medium risk. You can go back and you can change your variables. You can change your answers to the variables. What if I plant a more resistant variety? What if I change my planting date? None of that costs you anything as a grower. This integrated pest management does not cost you anything. It simply allows you to see how managing your crop differently makes it more sustainable. Why is it more sustainable? Without adding cost, you may be able to reduce your inputs, reduce your fungicide applications. Whatever you do, you'll increase your productivity because you are increasing yield and decreasing risk to disease. That's what it has been, okay? But this is a living document, if you will. We require innovation as well. We look for new technology. You're probably very familiar with El Nino in the Philippines, especially if you're in Ilocos Norte, if you're in Cagayan Valley, or if you're in Isabela. El Nino is particularly severe in those areas. And Southeast Asia faces harsher seasons than most of the world does. Philippines is extremely climate sensitive, as is Indonesia. You are no stranger to this. When we talk about improving the PeanutRx across the factors we already have, innovation goes into seeing what are relationships between the environment and the PeanutRx. And one of those things has been to look at that same El Nino that causes such damage in the Philippines. We recognize now that when you look in a neutral or an El Nino year, these are climatic conditions, we find that our amount of spotted wilt is less severe. It's lower, significantly lower for our susceptible and our moderately resistant varieties in La Nina years. It's higher in El Nino years and neutral years. Why is that? Why is that? Most likely, your winter conditions that are driven by La Ninas, El Ninos, and neutrals in the United States are largely affect thrips populations. And thrips populations are the vector that affects transmission of Spain spotted wilt virus. And so since then, we have integrated climate data into some forms of PeanutRx. Why? Why have we done that? because the innovation strategy we've looked at allow us to do it. The last section I want to cover is this, and this was the thesis by Clarence Kodak. Clarence said, I believe that peanut RX is good, but I think we're missing an opportunity. Okay. He says it accounts for effects of crop production practices. He said peanut RX, Bob, it determines potential levels of exposure. And there's a strong linear relationship between the total risk points and spotted wilt severity. And it's well known and it's loved and used by growers. The problem, Clarence from BSU, who came from the Philippines, and he came here and he took on peanut RX. He said, Dr. Bob, he said, peanut RX does not directly account for the magnitude of thrips populations. You only indirectly manage it. And so again, what are we looking at? We're looking at cross-discipline. We're looking at plant pathology and agronomy and across entomology. And we're looking at bringing in other universities as well and other collaborators, other ways of looking. In this case, we're looking at Clarence coming from across the ocean, across the Pacific. So objectives were to assess variability of spotted wilt and to modify and then reevaluate peanut RX after the addition of a thrips factor. Clarence came in as a young man and said, I can make peanut RX better. And what he did is to bring in a thrips risk concept where he looked at the potential window of opportunity each year out of a tool, again, collaboration out of North Carolina State University. And Clarence looked at how the timing of planting might coincide with peak populations of two types of thrips. And what he found was, if we could simply assess and interpret and predict when the thrips populations were going to be at their highest, if we modified our planting date to not coincide with that same peak, we would greatly reduce the risk of spotted wilt. And how much does that cost? It doesn't cost anything to the growers in terms of seed or of timing. It simply allows them to be more sustainable. How does it allow them to be more sustainable? It allows them to be more sustainable because it's more economic. It allows them to be more sustainable because there's less chemical necessary used in the environment. It allows them to be more sustainable because we have greater profit at the end of the season. And so here we integrate with North Carolina and with those other institutions mentioned earlier. He improved peanut RX. He improved it. He found that when you account for that vector, when you found you can account for that vector and you can take into account the peak dispersal by measuring and anticipating thrips populations, he found that we could get a better fit. We could get better precision and accuracy with predicting the level of disease. What do I like about that? It takes on innovation. It takes on technology. For now, we are assessing not only the disease, but we're assessing the vector directly as well. It takes on collaborative efforts. Okay? So, peanut RX, and in fact, that is, if you want to see some of my former members, that's Clarence on the left, and that's Katrina. Katrina's from Lucena. Clarence is from Mountain Province. And so they're Filipinos who come and studied with me. They're both very successful in their careers now. Both are working in one way or another in the United States in extension. Both are involved in university extension right now. So what is peanut RX as far as sustainability goes? Again, it unites faculty and students across disciplines and institutions. As we move forward with technology, it becomes increasingly important to maintain communication. We increase our collaboration with the industry. Peanut RX costs growers nothing to use, but if they use it effectively, they manage their diseases and they manage their costs. It's continually improved upon. Clarence there at the far left has made great strides. Peanut RX demonstrates that best management practices lead to our best production and allows for reduced reliance upon pesticides. If you look in this list of peanut RX, I believe you will see reduced environmental impact, improved production or profitability for the growers. And when you look back and if you take a measure of social equity, you can see that over time, even our peanut RX team is more representative of the increasingly diverse population in the United States. This time, I'd like to acknowledge those who've helped. Some of those are pictured here. Clarence, the far left. At that time, we had Jen, Katrina, and Lynn working my program. Jen's from Porac. Katrina's from Lucena, and Lynn is from Zamboanga Sibugay, along with the others in the back who have contributed heavily. You can see it's a large group from the USDA and UGA Extension. And with that, I would like to thank you. To put it in idiomatic terms, in a nutshell, that's what Peanut RX. What I hope you'll get away from this is A, the importance of collaboration. B, to build upon our previous speaker's talk, innovation and use of technology. And C, sustainability requires environmental, social equity, and economic advantage. And with a tool like Peanut RX, I believe that we bring sustainability a little bit closer to peanut farmers in the United States. And with that, I will end my presentation. Maraming salamat po, agyaman ako nay. Thank you very much for having me today. Daghang salamat.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kemerait, for that very insightful talk on Peanut RX, a tool that empowers farmers to make informed decisions about their crops. And that was a very good reminder for all of us that sustainable agriculture demands collaboration and building relationships with each other, with the academe, with the industry, and with the farmers. Okay, so I'm sure that our participants are very much interested and curious about these two tools discussed by our speakers. So let us now move on to the open forum. May I call on our moderator, a researcher from NCPC, Dr. Michelle Guerrero. Dr. Mitch?
Thank you very much, Char, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to the open forum session of today's webinar. My name is Michelle, and I am sure all of us learned a lot from the presentation of Ms. Sarah Jane Manaday from NCPC on the use of SPIDTECH Plus, and of course from Dr. Bob Kemerait on the cross-disciplinary and collaborative disease management of money. And many of you might have questions already in mind, so I'm officially opening the floor for the question and answer portion of this webinar. So for those joining us here in the Zoom space, please feel free to type your questions in the Q&A panel or in the Q&A chat box. And for our viewers tuning in via Facebook and YouTube, you may also type your questions in the comment section, and our colleagues are monitoring those questions for us. So I am encouraging everyone to send in your questions, and our speakers will try to address as many questions as time allows. So Ms. Sarah and Dr. Bob, I'll be reading some of the questions from our participants. First question is for Ms. Sarah Jane Manaday. All right, for a while. So Ms. Sarah, we have a question from the audience from Sir Jeffrey. So is Sarai and SPIDTECH the same?
Okay. Okay, to clarify the question, Sir Jeffrey, Sarai is a program, actually. It's a research program under the UPLB funded by the USCP card, and SPIDTECH is actually one of the outputs of one of the projects under the Sarai program. So SPIDTECH is a mobile application that was created initially under the Sarai program.
All right, a follow-up question, Ms. Sarah, is SPIDTECH Plus free?
Yes, we are planning to deploy SPIDTECH Plus in Google Play Store for use of everyone. So once it is deployed in Google Play Store, anyone can download it and use it for free.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sarah. And this question is addressed to Dr. Bob Kemerait. So the question, Dr. Bob, is based on your experience developing and implementing Peanut RX in the United States, what recommendations would you give to researchers, extension workers, and stakeholders in countries like the Philippines who want to develop a similar risk index for peanut diseases?
That's an excellent question, and and a specific answer comes up. That is that there are some in the United States who have developed similar and they've gone to the similar indices for other diseases and other systems, and they have gone through and then they have done extensive surveys to find out how many growers are using it, especially online tools. And they're devastated, they're crushed. They come back and they look at the online tools and they look at the hits and they say, it's a failure. It's a failure because they're measuring things wrong. If you measure, and I strongly encourage you to think about making risk indices. If your measure of success is how many hits you get on a online source, then you may be disappointed. But if the measure of success is how many growers recognize that one variety is better than another one, or who recognize that one process is better than another one, or who recognize if I delay planting just a little bit, if they recognize the components and in their own mind are integrating, that's a success. If you were to look at Peanut RX in the United States right now, how many people use online? I don't know. But if you ask them how many recognize that you plant at the wrong time, or you use the wrong variety, or if you don't use Thimet and furrow, how many recognize that impacts the disease? It's 100%. So my advice would be, don't be afraid to develop this. Extension tools tell us to take surveys to see how successful we are. In this case, the surveys may give you erroneous information because it's not how many hits you get on a website. It's how many growers change their practices because of what your tool suggests.
Thank you very much for that answer, Dr. Bob. I'm sure stakeholders and researchers present here take note of that recommendation. Okay, so another question for Dr. Bob Kemerait again. So how long did it take for your team to come up with Peanut RX in terms of research collaboration with private, other research teams, farmers, and stakeholders?
I'm so glad you asked that question because, again, this shows the importance of collaboration. About 1995, tomato spotted wilt virus was devastating the industry, the peanut industry. And there was a lot of research. And there's a lot of research showing factors. But they did not know how to get in the growers' hands. And they all took a trip to Australia. And these researchers from different institutions were in Australia together for another reason. And while they were there, outside of their normal environments, they began to piece together, realize what an index like this would do. And so this index was born by informal conversations working together. And over time, it's been developed into what it is now. It's taken us about 27 years old. But the most important thing is, how does this innovation take place? It took place by people who trusted each other, who worked together, who traveled together, and developed an idea. And again, I come back time and time again. Innovation and technology are critical for our future, but not at the expense of relationships and trust and building that through extension and outreach.
Thank you so much, Doc Bob. And indeed, it takes a very long time to develop this worthwhile Peanut RX technology. Another question again for Sir Bob. Is there any report for yield loss on peanut rust? Oh, well, it's in the Philippines, and Miss Sarah is also a plant pathologist. Maybe you have an insight. Although peanut is not part of SPIDTECH Plus, yeah. So is there any report for yield loss of peanut rust in the Philippines, or any projection for it to be severe in the future? Since we have climate changes.
I would absolutely say, so what stunned me is, I also work with southern corn rust, and I was stunned at how little southern corn rust you have. So in Georgia, southern corn rust is a major problem. In the Philippines, not so much. But that's just the opposite for peanut rust. Peanut rust in Georgia is minor. Peanut rust coupled with late leaf spot are devastating diseases if not controlled. And I can tell you, while I can't give you the exact figure, I would say that yields in a local sewer in Santo Domingo last April, the farmer's field who did not control the rust, I would say his yields must have been off by 30%. So it absolutely does cause yield loss. And it absolutely is one of the two most important diseases affecting mani in the Philippines.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Kemerait. Indeed, there's a lot of question for you. Next question is for Miss
That's
Sarah.
because of, our first speaker, she did it so well, everybody understood. With me, they're struggling to understand what I told them. So.
Definitely, they understand what you presented. Maybe there's just it's new to the participants. That's why there's a lot of curious question. So for Miss Sarah, here's a question from the audience. And this is from Sir Orville of Nueva Vizcaya State University. How do you manage to deploy your app for free?
Okay, so I guess the one who can really answer that is our computer programmer, our study leader on that portion. But as far as I know, we just use the Google Play Store as the platform for deployment, and I have really no technical knowledge when it comes to that portion. So maybe I can ask our study leader on that and go back to your question, sir, because I don't want to answer something that I'm not sure of.
All right. And maybe a follow-up question is SPIDTECH Plus already available in Google Play Store and Apple App Store?
Okay, so just to clarify, SPIDTECH Plus is actually an Android app as of now. So we have no version for iOS currently. So yes, it is available for Android apps, but it's not yet deployed in Google Play Store, and we're still conducting some we're still how do you call that, troubleshooting some of technical issues in deploying it in Google Play Store, and we're still finalizing some of the UI of the app. So maybe we will have another public post once we deploy this app in Google Play Store.
Thank you very much, Miss Sarah. So for now, it's not yet available, but once it's already available for free to the users, of course, Miss Sarah will definitely let our stakeholders, our farmers know about it. So the next question is for Dr. Bob. What epidem model was used for the peanut RX? And this is from an anonymous participant.
Oh, that's an excellent question. I'm always glad there's an epidemiologist in the room. And so that's a great question. So if you look, the answer is none. The answer is none. And there's an important reason for that, is that if you look at modeling and if you look at disease prediction, and there have been some outstanding tools built around epidemiological models, Vanderplank and those they did, it's outstanding. But what we've found is, and what the beauty of Peanut RX is a lot of those models, especially the more complicated ones, are never really used by the growers. And so what this one was is they're complicated, they require measurements. This one is based on experiential. It's based upon taking the data we have and working together to come up with the understanding of how these factors relate to each other and assign them risk points. Okay, so there really is no epidemiological model. They're based upon multiple trials, recognize the interaction, the relationship between the risk and the disease output and the yield effect as well, and assigning risk points to those different factors. Research shows that there's 10 different factors which affect tomato spotted wilt virus, leaf spot, and white mold that can be controlled by the grower. When we put those factors together, the idea is to weight them based upon the importance, based upon research data, and from that come up with a total point. It's more of an expert system as opposed to a model in the sense that you're discussing. Excellent question. Which is better? The epidemiological model are more precise. which one are used by the grower, the more simplistic experiential model of peanut RX? Great question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bob, for answering the question of our participants. And a few more questions for you, sir. Okay, so 3 questions actually from one participant. So the first question is, why is that after peanut RX losses were reduced, but then why is it that after peanut RX losses were reduced, but then after 5 to 10 years, it continued to increase in 2015? And his next question is, are you doing crop rotations? And so the participant is also sharing that he likes the point that peanut RX is of no cost to farmers. But how do you do this?
Okay, great. So first off, I want to compliment whoever asked that on their astute observation, because if it works, why do we continue to see peaks? Okay, what we will say is use of peanut RX never eliminates the diseases, never eliminates spotted wilt, never eliminates white mold, never eliminates leaf spot. And when you see the peaks that came in 2005, what happens there is 2 things. If you look, that peak came after a long period of time when there was very little spotted wilt. What happened is that growers they were cyanized, the right word cyanide. They were used to not having spotted wilt. And so they became lax. They did not pay as much attention to peanut RX because they hadn't had much disease. When they got away from using it, when they got away from paying close attention to it, the disease spiked again. So what you're seeing is human nature. No disease, no disease, no disease. We're going to be a little bit lazy. Konti lang tamad. And when they do that, then it comes back. That shows the real power of maintaining and using it. Second question was, do we use crop rotation? Absolutely. Absolutely we do. And we would like them to plant peanuts in the field no more than 1 out of every 3 years. But again, the economic sustainability requires that growers may plant peanuts more often than that. I know that when I'm in Ilocos Norte, they're planting peanuts almost every year in some fields. And if you have to do that, we have to recognize that you have to have a greater reliance upon things like fungicides. Peanut RX tells us that your risk increases. And the last question is how can we do this for free? How can we do this for free? Well, the time, it's not really free, I guess. The time for the university researchers and extension is paid for by our states, by our governments. So there is cost there. But the cost in terms of presenting this and getting it to the growers is paid for in our extension budgets. And so the use by the growers, even we have online tools that can be done, is paid for by grants and extension budgets, so that the grower never faces a cost in using it. In fact, the industry enjoys it so much because it shows how they can better use their products, that even industry will help us to recommend and to promote peanut RX. It's really a wonderful tool that is only for the benefit of the growers.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kemerait, for answering the inquiry of our participants. And I guess this is another question for Dr. Kemerait. How frequently is the risk assessment updated on peanut RX? And is it based on new data or changing conditions?
Excellent question. And these are all really, they show me that make my heart feel good because it shows you were listening. It is updated annually. And so every December we get together. I call a meeting together. We have our team members come from the 6 different universities, and we all get together for a retreat. And we're there together for 2 to 3 days. And we bring together all of the data that we collected with regards to white mold management, leaf spot management, and tomato spotted wilt management, plus our new variety data. And we bring that together, and we lock ourselves away, kind of like the papal enclave, and we don't come out until we've hammered out the new peanut RX. And so every year the peanut RX looks a little bit different than it did the previous year. Not only that, but when we have students like Clarence Kodad, from BSU, when he comes, he also brings forth revolutionary change to PeanutRx by finding new technologies and new innovations. So every year it's updated, and we have monumental updates probably every time we have a graduate student come through and work.
Okay, thank you so much. And on that same note, a question for Miss Sarah. How frequent is the plan for the updating of SPIDTECH Plus? Can you share with the audience?
Okay, so actually, yung the SPIDTECH Plus actually right now is hindi pa siya talaga kompleto. And currently, we're still building some of the models for identification, say, for the other crops and for the other insect pests and diseases. And we are working closely with Serval, with the Institute of Computer Science, UP Los Baños, when it comes to the development and updating of the app. So currently, we are working on further development of the app. And as of now, we don't have formal agreement when it comes to the updating, but right now we're still working together when it comes to updating because we're also restricted with budget. So actually, yung first version ng SPIDTECH is around 2001, 2021 pa yung last na version niya. And we were only able to update the app 2024 because of a new funding agency. Ayun. So currently we're still yun po, we're still working on the few developments.
All right, thank you so much, Miss Sarah. Questions again for Dr. Bob. So this is from Papua New Guinea, actually. So the question is, apart from the other field diseases, aflatoxin is a serious threat to peanuts in Papua New Guinea, as well as other countries in the tropics. Does PeanutRx capture approaches to aflatoxin management?
I'm glad for that question, primarily because one of your own, Judo Butalid, who is in Tifton right now, and if he hasn't fallen asleep, he's still listening. That is his project. That is his research project to help design a risk index for aflatoxin management. And so is PeanutRx used for, and this is a great point, PeanutRx in itself is not used to manage aflatoxin, which is probably the number one disease, or number one problem with peanut consumption in the world is aflatoxin. But what PeanutRx has done, it's created a tool that inspires other systems to try and use something like it. So as we go forward to try and find ways to minimize the impact of aflatoxin, whether it's in Africa or in Haiti or Southeast Asia or Papua New Guinea or in Tifton, Georgia, the same process of exploring variables and assigning risk to them in aflatoxin that might be drought conditions. It might be the variety that was planted. It might be the time to harvest. It might be environmental conditions at the harvest. Those factors can all be built into, which is what Judo is working on, into a risk index that can be used, much like PeanutRx, to try and minimize the impact of aflatoxin on consumers. And again, whether it's in the Philippines, whether it's in Papua New Guinea, or whether it's the United States, aflatoxin is a driving force in production of peanut.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Bob. And another question for you is PeanutRx created solely based on US data, or does it include global information?
Excellent question. It is based on regional data. So, and that's a great question. So what we found is that if you went as far up into, so PeanutRx works very well in Georgia, Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, those states along the coast. But if you went into the state of Texas where they grow peanuts, or if you went in the state of Virginia where they grow peanuts, the same factors would likely play a role and do play a role. However, the weighted points and the factors would have to be modified because of the different conditions. The question might read, well, could you develop a peanut RX somewhere else? Yes, you could, but you would not use the same data that we use in the United States. Your varieties are different. The impact on your vectors is different. Your rotational crops are different. So all of those things would have to be factored into the risk. But the framework of what we have with modifications appropriate for elsewhere in the world would be appropriate.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Bob. And we have actually, I guess, of course, academic faculty and staff here asking, do you have a GitHub interface for Peanut RX?
I'm sorry, do we have a what?
A GitHub interface.
I'm not sure what a GitHub interface is. So I do know we have a website where we have it, and we're also building a second website. But as far as a GitHub, I don't know exactly what that is. But you can find the tool itself at peanutrx.org.
In the website.
At the website.
All right. I guess that is all of the questions that I have so far. Let me check.
I would like to give when we talk about peanuts and peanut RX, you do have at IPB, Institute of Plant Breeding, you have a very strong team of plant pathologists and breeders and those. So hats off to University of Philippines, Los Baños for what you do. If you go up into northern Luzon, you have very strong peanut experts in there as well. So the Philippines, whether you have peanut RX or not, you certainly have the expertise to tackle important problems that face peanut production.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Bob. I guess a curious question from one participant, can we grow peanut through hydroponics? Is it possible?
Can you grow peanuts through hydroponics? I assume you could, but the most important thing with peanuts, well, I would say you probably can't. All right. And the reason for that is you have to have soil or some way for some substrate for the immature peanut to develop. Because if the immature peanut does not press down into the soil, it never develops into the pod that we know. So if you did do it in hydroponics, you'd have to still have some soil basis by which those pods could push into the soil in order to develop. They develop only if they're in the darkness of the soil. If there's some way to get around that, as far as hydroponics, it could be, but at this point, no.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bob, for answering that question. And okay. There's a new question that came in just now. For Dr. Bob Kemerait, is the risk assessment on Peanut RX gather general overview for the entire field, or does it consider potential microclimate that influence disease pressure?
Excellent question, right? One of the things that makes this so in part, yes, it does take into account on a field by field basis. One of the things that makes this simple, and an earlier question asked, what was the epidemiological model that this was based upon? And I said, it's not, it's an expert system. Peanut RX really doesn't take into the impact of weather or measuring weather, which is sometimes holds the growers back. We say if conditions are favorable for disease development, we want to increase our risk. But really the Peanut RX doesn't take into account that, because you can assess risk and then adjust for weather patterns. The question about microclimate, what we recognize is in an indirect way that some fields, some areas just have greater disease. And so we build that microclimate into a category called field history. If we have fields where we typically have, and it's likely because of microclimates that exist in that region or in that area or in that field that have greater, we give points to it. You could argue, are you really calling it microclimate? We're not, but it's our indirect way of measuring microclimate to keep the model simple, that we're taking that into account. So yes, we do, but not in a way that an epidemiologist or a model builder would be satisfied with. But for a grower, the simplicity makes it appropriate.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Bob. And in that same note, Miss Sarah, does SPIDTECH Plus also captures weather variables or parameters?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Doc Mitch?
In that same note, does SPIDTECH Plus gather microclimate or weather variables?
SpeedTech Plus actually doesn't gather those information, those parameters. We just use the AI technology to uh, automatically detect insect pests and diseases in an infected plant. That's what it does. And in terms of the monitoring, it just captures the GPS of the locations and submit it in the Speed Hive web, and then in that website, it creates the map of those GPS collections. So it doesn't gather those kinds of variables or parameters actually.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And that concludes our open forum session. Again, I would like to thank our speakers, Ms. Sarah Jane Manaday and Dr. Bob Kemerait, for answering the questions of our participants. And would also like to thank the participants for actively engaging in our open forum session. Back to you, Ms. Charlotte.
Okay, thank you, Doc Mitch, for facilitating our open forum. Thank you also to our very active participants, and of course, to our resource speakers for sharing with us your knowledge and accommodating the questions of our participants. To show our appreciation, we would like to award you a certificate of appreciation. Please allow me to read the citation. University of the Philippines, Los Baños, Certificate of Appreciation is awarded to Sarah Jane B. Manaday for serving as a resource person on the topic Innovative Crop Protection through SpeedTech Plus during the NCPC Anniversary webinar held on 20 May 2025 via Zoom. Given this 20th day of May 2025 at the National Crop Protection Center, College of Agriculture and Food Science, University of the Philippines, Los Baños, Laguna, Philippines. Signed, Romaline L. Miras, Chair of the Webinar Committee, and April N. Alviar, OIC of the National Crop Protection Center. Thank you, Ms. Sarah. The same certificate is awarded to Robert C. Kemerait Jr. for serving as a resource person on the topic Peanut RX, a cross-disciplinary collaborative disease management tool for sustainable production of Manaday, during the NCPC Anniversary webinar held on 20 May 2025 via Zoom. Given this 20th day of May 2025 at the National Crop Protection Center, College of Agriculture and Food Science, University of the Philippines, Los Baños, Laguna, Philippines. Signed, Romaline L. Miras, Chair of the Webinar Committee, and April N. Alviar, OIC of the National Crop Protection Center. Once again, thank you, Ms. Sarah and Dr. Kemerait. And as promised, our participants will also get their certificate of attendance upon answering the evaluation form. You may access the form at bit.ly/NCPC 49 evaluation. And please make sure to accomplish this until tomorrow, May 21, 5 p.m. So we've also provided the link in the chat box. Okay, with that, I would like to invite the chair of the webinar committee, Ms. Romaline L. Miras, to give us the closing remarks.
Thank you, Ms. Charlotte. On behalf of the NCPC Webinar Committee and the entire National Crop Protection Center, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to all who participated in today's webinar commemorating our 49th anniversary. Your presence affirms our shared commitment to advancing sustainable crop protection in the Philippines. This year's theme, Innovating the Future of Sustainable Crop Protection, reflects our shared vision to harness scientific research and innovation in safeguarding our agricultural resources for future generations. We are deeply honored by the presence of our distinguished speakers. The presentation on SPIDTECH Plus illuminated the transformative potential of digital tools in pest and disease monitoring, exemplifying how technology can empower farmers and enhance agricultural resilience. Similarly, the discussion on Peanut RX showcased the power of interdisciplinary collaboration in developing practical, science-based solutions for crop protection. To our esteemed speakers, thank you for your invaluable contributions. Your expertise enriches our understanding and inspires us to contribute our work with renewed purpose. To the NCPC Webinar Committee, congratulations on orchestrating a seamless and impactful event. Your commitment plays a vital role in advancing our mission to share knowledge and drive innovation in crop protection with our stakeholders. As we look forward to our 50th year and beyond, let us remain steadfast in our mission to protect crops, support farmers, and innovate for a food-secure and resilient future. Maraming salamat po. Stay safe, shalom, and mabuhay ang NCPC.
Thank you, Ms. Roma. And thank you once again, everyone, for joining us in our anniversary webinar and in the celebration of the 49th anniversary of the National Crop Protection Center. For updates about NCPC and our activities, please follow us on Facebook and YouTube and visit our website. Once again, thank you, everyone, and have a great day ahead.